You ever step off a flight thinking why was that so exhausting for such a short trip? Next trip you switch airlines and somehow it's the same circus. So today we're going to separate bad luck from bad airlines. I pulled on-time stats, cancellation rates, sneaky fees, and real $100 bag shock stories. Don't be surprised if your personal favorite airline doesn't land where you expect. We'll count down the airlines to avoid at all costs and finish with 4 that are actually worth your money. Starting with an Asian airline. Many frequent flyers swear is untouchable. Seat belt on. Let's start at the bottom of the list. Spirit is that airline where the real price shows up after you've already committed. The meter starts the second you add anything, picking a seat, upgrading to a real carry-on. At the gate, you get murky announcements, bag fee arguments, and once you're on board, a cabin that can flip from calm to loud in a single leg. One viewer story sums it up. His small backpack slid into the metal sizer except for one strap sticking up a bit. The agent still tried to charge a $100 fee. He pushed the strap down. It fit perfectly and only after an argument was he finally allowed to board. Have you ever had a bag fee showdown like that? And that's before the memes, the dark little no-crash fee joke, or the line about shoveling coal across the Atlantic on a steamship still beating flying Spirit. When does it ever make sense? Only if you're traveling with a tiny personal item. Your schedule is flexible and you're okay trading comfort for a rock-bottom fare. Otherwise, skip it if you've got any other choice. Frontier is the other half of America's ultra-low-cost duo. If Spirit attacks your wallet, Frontier attacks your seating chart. Want to sit next to your own kid? That's an add-on. Want to keep your bad knee out of the middle seat? Add-on. The headline fare is low, but the second you ask for a normal family setup, the number starts climbing. You get the picture, right? The operation runs tight, too. Short turn times, packed flights, and few backup planes helped keep Frontier at about 67% on-time arrivals in 2024. So, even a simple morning flight can push the rest of your day back. Then comes the gate check chaos. Smaller aircraft and tight overhead bins mean your carry-on can get tagged and sent to the hold right at the door of the plane. It's not just annoying. On a tight connection, that surprise gate check can be the difference between making your next flight and watching it push back without you. So, with Frontier, you travel light, avoid tight connections, and assume you'll pay to sit where you actually want. Because from here on in the list, the problem isn't just money. These next airlines have reputations wearing thin. Do you remember when American Airlines felt like a dream? Now, people compare it to a Greyhound in the sky. And here's why. Back in the 60s, being an AA kid was something to brag about. Today, AW still looks impressive on paper. Lots of hubs and a massive route map, but that doesn't guarantee a great trip. Too many flights feel like a cold transaction, tighter cabins, and service that swings between genuinely kind and completely checked out. According to the U.S. Bureau of Transportation Statistics, through April 2025, AW hit about 76.3% on-time arrivals with 2% of flights canceled. Not a disaster in a spreadsheet, but enough to make you nervous when the board starts blinking. And my friend's trip was worse than the numbers. So, where are you with American Airlines? Still loyal or did you quietly walk away? Drop your AW stories in the comments. Those are the airlines I'd avoid whenever I reasonably can. Next, we're moving into that messy middle flawed carriers that are still worth flying if you know how to play them. If AW is the faded first love, United is the partner that feels safer but still comes with surprise drama. This used to be the classic business trip airline. Fly the friendly skies, polished lounges, real meals, sharp crews. You still hear plenty of stories about rushed, indifferent service and cabins that look worn out by the time you land. But here's the twist that still makes it worth a look. In 2024, they clocked roughly 80 to 81% on-time arrivals, second in North America behind Delta. If your main goal is just get me there on time, and we're good, United often does exactly that. And from 2018 onward, they've quietly upped their long-haul game with Polaris seats, better lounges, and decent bedding. When everything lines up on a 787 or 77, a United long haul can feel genuinely premium. So, how do you get the most out of it? Check lounge rules in the United app and aim for a 787 on long routes for a quieter cabin. Because if United is the coin flip, JetBlue was supposed to be the boutique escape from all of this. Launched in 2000, JetBlue won customers fast with a few highlights that outpace rivals. Plush seats with real legroom, personal screens at every seat, free Wi-Fi fast enough for both work and movies, and complimentary snacks, even if it's not a full spread. But the cracks start showing in everything that happens before you leave the ground. Long dragging delays, sudden cancellations. Seat selection is its own minime. Pay up early for what you want or roll the dice with whatever's left. Then there's the pet story. A passenger paid $150 to bring a small dog. The rule is standard across a lot of airlines. What stung was how rigid it felt in practice. Zero warmth, zero reassurance, just strict enforcement that left the owner feeling more scolded than supported. JetBlue can still shine on the right route if you care about legroom and Wi-Fi. But that boutique rescue image is fading. And next up is a former palace in the sky that's deep in rebuild mode. Air India. Have you ever regretted watching a once glam airline slide downhill? There was a time Air India felt ceremonial warm welcomes, generous meals, the kind of flight you dress up for. These days, the stories sound very different. Rolling delays, recline that doesn't work, seatback screens frozen for hours, and cabins that look tired halfway through a long haul. Every now and then, you even hear the B word whispered, bed bugs. But it's not a total write-off. Fares can be very competitive. The food is still a genuine strong point, and some regulars say they've noticed service slowly improving. You're basically catching an airline in the middle of a huge reset. Tata has taken over, ordered new aircraft and refitting cabins to drag the product back up. How do you play it? Aim for newer wide bodies whenever you can. Pick daytime flights. Bring wipes and your own entertainment. And if you get a clearly broken seat, snap photos. It makes claims a lot easier later. If you've flown Air India recently, drop your route in the comments. Did it feel like old Air India or a real comeback? And now here's the airline that will probably start an argument in the comments. Ryanair. Those 9-year-old fares are real, but so are the rules. Seats are tight, personal item has to be tiny, and that Paris or Barcelona airport can be a 45 to 60-minute bus ride from the city. Show up with a borderline bag, forget to check in online, or pick the wrong line at the airport, and the fees kick in fast. But fans of Ryanair see it differently. For them, the add-ons are clearly listed, and the deal is simple. Follow the rules, get the cheap seat. Regular Ryanair flyers say the fares are so low, it still feels surreal. That's a big reason Ryanair now sits among the top carriers in Europe by passenger numbers, with around 197 million passengers in 2024. So, this one's more nuanced. Ryanair isn't for people chasing a nice experience. It's for people who treat a plane like a bus. If you play by the rule book, it doesn't really belong in the avoid at all cost pile. Ask travelers what British Airways stands for, and many will say transatlantic tradition. The uniforms, the accent, the tea service. There's still a bit of theater you can feel passing through Heathrow. But the script doesn't always match the seat you end up in. In economy, the answer really depends on the plane you get. On those Trip 7s squeezed into tenor breast, you feel every extra seat, narrow rows and tight aisles. The saving grace is the cabin crew is some of the kindest and most attentive they've had in coach, which goes a long way when space is scarce. But don't worry, jump up to premium economy and the vibe flips fast. The seats feel like a proper upgrade. The cabin is noticeably quieter, and the food doesn't feel like an afterthought. It isn't cheap, but a lot of travelers walk away feeling their money actually turned into comfort. If this breakdown helps you sort your options, tap like and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the list. Are you tired of long-haul flights that feel like a 3-part soap opera? Qantas is the airline people book when they're over the drama and just want a grown-up get-me-there flight. Domestically, most big dots on the map connect cleanly through Sydney or Melbourne. But the real sell is on the ground and on those monster routes to the US and UK. The lounges in Sydney and Melbourne, they actually feel like somewhere you choose to sit for a couple of hours. Compared to what most Americans know from Delta or United, it's closer to a calm day spa than a crowded waiting room. Refitted A380s and A330s also help those 14 to 17-hour legs feel less like punishment. Economy on short hops can feel snug, and hot routes aren't cheap, but if you care more about safety and low drama than rock-bottom prices, Qantas is worth a try. Now, let's jump to Europe to a flag carrier built on precision that hasn't always lived up to its legend. Want German efficiency at 35,000 feet? When everything clicks, Lufthansa is on script, crisp crews, spotless cabins, and smooth handoffs through Frankfurt or Munich. Newer long-haul frames feel solidly grown up rather than flashy. Measured service, tidy bedding, nothing out of place. But pull the curtain back and you see the weak spots. Labor disputes and strikes show how fast the system can wobble. One bad day and the delay board lights up. And in economy, especially on short haul, seats are packed tighter than many travelers remember, with food that ranges from fine to forgettable. Here's the good news. A broad refresh is rolling out. More privacy, updated seats, and when the network runs steady, FRA and MU remain two of Europe's most efficient connection hubs. So, what's the play? If you care about clean, efficient connections across Europe and can live with average food and space, Lufthansa is a very sensible pick. Just check the aircraft type for long haul before you book and set your expectations to reliable and decent instead of luxury and fireworks. Keep that lens on. Next is a quieter star out of Taiwan that long-haul flyers quietly swear by when they want economy that doesn't feel like punishment. EVA Air is what happens when big airline reliability quietly points itself toward Asia. No hype, no flashy branding, just a steady stream of that was really good stories. Think of a Seattle-Taipei-Bali trip where the main memories are kind crew, decent meals, and an economy seat that felt better than the price. That combo, steady operations, polite service, and reasonable fares, is basically EVA's personality. Taipei is the secret weapon from US gateways like LAX, SFO, and C. It's an easy one-stop bridge to Bangkok, Bali, and the rest of Southeast Asia. On top of that, EVA's safety reputation is excellent, and on some routes, you even get the famous Hello Kitty jets if you're into a bit of fun with your flight. For travelers who care less about champagne fountains and more about leave on time, arrive on time, get treated decently in between, EVA Air absolutely deserves a spot on your list. And if reliable, but with a Middle East stopover and a more premium cabin feel sounds tempting, the next airline Etihad might be exactly your speed. Think of Etihad as the Gulf carrier for people who want the wow factor without lighting their wallet on fire. On the A350s and 787s, business class feels properly high-end, spacious pods, smart lighting, and cabins that look sharp. Back on the ground, Abu Dhabi's new Terminal A is a big part of the appeal. Wide corridors, clear signage, and lounges that feel fresh and open with real Middle Eastern dishes. Etihad sits in the same Big Three golf club as Emirates and Qatar, but tickets are often noticeably cheaper. There is a trade, a smaller network with fewer departures, a few older jets, extra charges for seats and Wi-Fi, and strict cabin bag rules with no separate personal item. Best play, aim for 787 or A350 flights. Give yourself a reasonable layover in Abu Dhabi and budget seat and Wi-Fi costs up front. Flown Etihad recently. Did it feel like a smart Gulf bargain to you? Here's the carrier many people call the last fortress in the US airline game. Delta cabins are usually clean, crews balance professional and friendly. Their seatback if on most jets and Delta Sync Wi-Fi does the job. In 2024, Delta ran about 83.46% on time. Best among us carriers, and its big hubs keep connections feeling organized, not chaotic. Every time you open the Delta app, it feels like a system that actually knows what it's doing, unlike some rivals. Of course, that kind of calm has a price tag. Fares often run higher than the competition. Basic economy is strict. Sky subs are harder to get into and still crowded at rush hour. And Sky Miles has earned a reputation for changing the rules midame. Compared with American or United, Delta usually feels steadier and less stressful from door to door. You're paying extra for a little travel insurance on your sanity. That wraps up the middle of the table. Next is the top 4 airlines that deliver a different caliber of experience. So stick around so you don't miss the truly world-class picks. Kicking off the top tier is Cathay Pacific, Hong Kong's flag carrier that shaped the idea of quiet, precise hospitality for decades. What makes Cathay special is how joined up the whole journey can feel when it's on form. Check-in is calm, the boarding process is orderly, and it feels like someone actually thought about how each step should flow. In Hong Kong, the pier and the wing are a big part of the appeal. Warm lighting, made-to-order dining, and a noodle bar. Frequent flyers go out of their way for onboard meals, usually strike a nice east-west balance. And in business, you get flatbeds, direct aisle access, and enough privacy to make a long haul feel manageable. After the pandemic though, service has been up and down depending on the route. So, check fresh reviews for your specific route and aircraft before you hit book. Next up is a Japanese carrier that takes that same quietly obsessive approach and makes even the economy feel like an upgrade. Think about an economy seat that doesn't punish you for dues to seize hours straight. That's JL's quiet superpower. Up front is where the legend comes from. On the right aircraft, business means fully flat beds, plush bedding, and that famous A380 upper deck. First on the A380 boils down to one thing your brain never forgets. A private suite and a shower at 40,000 feet. You hear it once and it sticks in your head, right? Crews are trained hard, and a young Trip 77 and A380 fleet with a strong safety record keeps all that glossy marketing from feeling like smoke and mirrors. The catch: fares usually sit above the pack. If you just want the cheapest A to B ticket, Emirates won't be your best friend. But if you want the flight itself to feel like a highlight of the trip, the money starts to make sense. Don't go anywhere, because the next airline is the one season frequent flyers whisper about when they say best in music the world. Holding the home spot, Singapore Airlines has never really dropped that golden age of flying feeling. Ask around and you'll hear the same thing. People fall for SIA on the very first trip. What makes it different is how predictable the quality feels. In economy, service runs on a rhythm you can rely on. Meals come out in a calm, organized way. Crews circle back to check on you, and small requests don't feel like favors. For older travelers or anyone without the energy to chase down help, that kind of proactive "we're already here" care is a huge deal. Further up the cabin is where the extras kick in. In business and suites, hotel room in the sky isn't just a slogan. Real beds, doors you can close, and on many routes, book the cook, where you pre-order restaurant-style meals days before you fly. And then there's home base, Changi. For most airlines, a layover is something you endure. In Singapore, it's part of the experience. Gardens, quiet zones, smooth security, and an airport that feels designed for human beings. You do pay more to fly Singapore Airlines, but what you're really buying is peace of mind, and a level of consistency most airlines only talk about. It's always a trade-off between price, stress, and how much chaos you're willing to tolerate on the way to your vacation. This video isn't here to scare you off flying. It's so when you see a logo on the booking screen, you know what you're really buying. A strict cheap ticket or pricier, calmer trip. Now, it's your turn. Which airline is on your personal never again list? And which one would you actually go out of your way to fly? Drop it in the comments. I read them and they shape these rankings. If this helps, hit like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen to level up how you book your next flight.